Okay, I've got 3:33, so we'll call the meeting to order. First item is and I appreciate y'all being here, by the way. I should stop and say that. I apologize. I've been running from one thing to the next today, so I apologize about that. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the October 23rd meeting. They should have printed. I hope they printed. Yep, they printed. If there's any questions, obviously we can talk about those. If not, we would entertain a motion.
I move to waive the reading of the minutes and approve them.
I second that.
Okay. Move to waive. Okay, who made that?
Hudson.
Hudson. Tanya, where are you at? There you are. Okay, seconded.
Donovan.
All right, okay, thank you. So we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Okay. Okay, so just make sure I got it right. The motion was to waive the first reading and approve, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is the calendar. I wanted to just kind of get a sense or have some conversation with y'all on what that looked like. I was going to pull up, I think I have in here. Yes. Okay, so I have the calendar responses. We had 96 staff members share first, second, third priority on the items that that I put out there. So the lowest, the way I scored it was first priority was worth 1 point, second priority, 2 points. So the lowest number of points is the highest overall priority. Okay. So the highest priority was to have a full week off at Thanksgiving. The next highest priority was to have 3 weekends at Christmas. So that's 2 full weeks. 3 weekends. Third on the list was the last day of school before Memorial Day. Fourth on the list, the fourth priority was 1 day vacation per month. Fifth on that list was Good Friday. And then first day of school, week of August 18th. And then first day of school, week of August 11th was the lowest priority. Some items that aren't on there that I just remember based on feedback that I got is it seems like there's a desire to have a day off, not a PD day, after fall conferences. That's what I feel. That's what I feel like I've heard. Now, how many people told me that? I don't know. Right? It may have been 2.
I just know it's been a really, really long time since Labor Day. That's
what everyone seems like they're saying.
It's been a really long time since Labor Day, even though we had that, our working day, and that was good. Mm-hmm. But it's been a really long day since Labor Day. So I can understand why people would be saying that.
And there were still some questions on, are we willing to talk about 4-day week? Are we willing to talk about year round? I will say I don't know that the concerns have changed. Remember this time last year when we were doing that, it was evenly, if I remember correctly, it was almost evenly matched. We had like 36 or so, 35 people who mentioned one or the other. was almost like 18 on one side, 17 on the other. As far as like 18, we really need to look at it. 17, if we look at it, I'm going somewhere else, kind of thing. Right? I really don't want to look at it. You know, I don't think I've made any secret. I'm not a big fan of the 4-day week. You know, the data that I see, the research that I see says kids learn in a 4-day week, but they learn more in a 5-day week.
I also think we don't need to make big changes like that right now. The public hates us because we're bullying their kids.
Right. I think, what data do we see on year-round school?
I wouldn't mind talking about that myself. You know, I wonder. And I will say this: the other piece that I know is out there, and I don't know if there'll be any movement behind it in January when the legislature comes back. Secretary Oliva does not like, you know, going less than 178 days.
Right.
So there are a lot of school districts, you know, they've gone to 170, 172. I know one school district that went to 165. I just know I've heard, like I listened to the state board meeting a week ago Thursday, and he mentioned it 2 or 3 times again, and the state board, you know, said, yep, we all agree, you know, da-da-da-da-da. I don't know that they'll do away with it, but I do wonder if they won't put some guardrails on it as far as you want to do, you know, 4-day a week, or you want to do, you know, he was talking about most places do 180 days minimum of student contact. So, I mean, they may say you want to do a calendar that's less than, you know, I could see him saying for A and B schools, great. Everybody else, Now, that's just me, like, hypothesizing what might be out there. So, kind of keep that in mind. But I do wonder, like, how open we would be to sort of thinking way outside the box, right? Now, the things that I come up with, I think we still have the struggles that we had, like, year-round. What I remember hearing about year-round was it's going to be toughest on the little kids because, you know, every 6 weeks is Christmas. Then we're bringing them back, you know, I mean, the break time, that kind of thing, right?
They have to reteach everything as far as
We've been in school for
behaviors
70
and
days. Today was the first day they did something without having to be reminded.
But it seems like something needs to change because it's getting worse in schools, in my opinion. I feel like kids are getting burnt out, teachers are burnt out. I would like for us to if we could look at it, start educating our staff and our community on what it would look like.
Do you think would we be open to, you know, everybody's talking about interventions and, you know, all that stuff's important, and it's stuff that we have to do, but it also feels like I don't know how effective are we being with that, right? With our structure and our model, and so I'm wondering what would it look like if we ran, say, 5 or 6 weeks of school, and then maybe a couple of weeks or 3 weeks of break in there, but then one of those weeks, now this is where we start having to talk about you know, can we staff it with obviously extra pay and all that, but this week is going to be intervention. We're going to bring you back in, and what you didn't learn in the last 5 weeks, we're going to really hammer with the 10 or 12 or whatever kids that we need. Right? I don't know if I don't know
Smaller
anything
class
budgetary,
size.
right? I've not run any budget numbers whatsoever. But you know, some mechanism which would allow us to I don't know, really concentrate on tier 1 instruction with tier 1 interventions, right? I mean, you guys are still doing interventions in the class. Hey, you haven't gotten this yet. Let's do this a little bit more. I mean, so we're not talking tier 2, but then, you know, that maybe that week in there is we're going to bring you back in and we're going to do tier 2 interventions, or we're going to really we could maybe even split it up. If we've got too many, we could do 3 hours and then send them home in 3 hours, or something that's sort of, you know, outside the wheelhouse a little bit.
I worry.
And it's also an incentive.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was gonna say, because I just worry about students feeling like they're being picked on because they have to be the ones to come, or, you know what I'm saying? But I do think the incentive, like, if you pose it as it's an incentive, then I think students would definitely try harder on, like, we just talked about Atlas, so that's just on my mind, like, just trying harder on, like, Atlas interims and Atlas testing. Where if they get so high on the Atlas, they don't have to come that week or whatever. So,
Right.
yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Like, if you don't need the interventions, you get 3 weeks off
Sure.
or 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
And if you do need the interventions, you only get a week off or 2 weeks or whatever that is.
Yeah, I think when my oldest son Blaine came through, there was the benchmark exam,
Mm-hmm.
and if they scored advanced, you know, they got like a skip day, or
Right, they
they,
didn't
you know,
have to
there
come.
was they didn't have to.
A lot of
come.
schools do that. They don't have to do their semester test.
Yes, and they also didn't
have a
to
certain
do-
grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when they took their semester test, they could leave
Right. Yes.
after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, but you
And
have
that
to
is a
score.
hot, I would say that's a hot topic with seniors.
Seniors about it.
Yes.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
I like that. I feel like there's so many different needs in the classroom that all the needs are not being met with the students, and the ones that need to ask questions won't, because, and then the ones who need scaffolded, like more advanced work,
Yes.
aren't getting that. There's just too many diverse groups in a classroom, and I know it's whatever the law is where everybody's included, but I feel like if we kind of segregate, I know we can't, or if we can, I don't know, but the kids need to be grouped different.
Ability based.
Yes.
We
Well, see,
are.
and that's what we've
Our
always
lives,
used.
Because
it's not
today
right.
I have been a counselor, I've been a nurse,
Yes.
I've been multiple times today. I've been a referee, I have been, and you know, it has been,
Consuming.
Yeah.
yes.
Well, like in the
And you
kindergarten
get
level,
a fire, you get one fire put out, and then you have, and
Yeah.
it's just, you know,
But
Yeah.
that's why we
It's
do
no
those
learning.
pre-assessments, and he would give us so many advanced kids, so many middle kids, and so many low kids, and that's why we do those pre-assessment days in kindergarten, is so that we can try to do that. It doesn't always work out that way
No,
with all the
because
recommendations,
you've also got-
you know, but.
And if a kid moves
Behavior
in, or 10 kids move in, which is more likely,
Yes.
then they get, they're just going to be placed wherever there's room.
Or they just
Right.
don't show up.
Right.
for testing.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, I had 6 this year that didn't even come to the pre-assessment. And I was like, how did I get 6
Yeah.
that didn't even come?
And that's just in your class. So
That's
I'm
just
sure
in
other
my
classes
class.
have that too. So,
Well, I don't know.
yeah, that's the issue.
You had one,
If
one,
we
or two.
look
Yeah,
at
so
that, if
it's
we go
6.
down that road, do we have concern? I mean, I have a concern. I don't know. Can we staff it? Can we staff those extra weeks?
I mean, you're able to staff the Redskin Academy?
Are they volunteer based or?
Well, no, they wouldn't. I mean, they couldn't be, right? I mean,
Right.
they'd have to. I mean, you're right.
We
It's-
don't have to be
It's
here.
the same. Well, I don't know that, would everybody have to be there, right? Would it, I mean, if we're
You
only
only have a
working
handful.
with, right.
That's
I
what I'm
mean,
thinking. I think
kids.
you do it where
It'd
it's
be more
voluntary.
set up like summer
And then,
school.
but that's voluntary to a level because you do need like teachers that can teach math and teachers that can teach English.
Credentials, yeah.
Yes, but I guess I don't know. But I
But I
still
don't-
think you would be able to. I think you would. But
I mean, I think it wouldn't, I don't think it would be, I'm only gonna teach my kids, right?
Sure,
I think it's
yeah.
gonna be, okay, you're gonna work on what kindergarten skill this time, and you're gonna work on, you know, what grade level skill, and you're gonna work on, right? And so all the kiddos, and there'll probably be too many, right? You may have 2 or 3 kindergarten teachers working on the same standards, because there's just
That's what we did in Tip Town last
too
year.
many.
I think at the beginning it would be too many, and then once they realize,
They
at least in the
don't
high
wanna be
school, yes, at least in the high school
Then
it would
they
be
would-
like that.
yeah.
I think it would be start with a lot, and then once they realize, oh crap, like I have to be here because I didn't try or because I didn't do whatever, then it would get a lot
Realization.
smaller, and probably even not in just in high school, but in lower grades as well.
Are there concerns about parents sending them? That'd be my other
Yes.
concern.
Yes.
Because I
definitely
can
need
hear, well, we
transportation.
planned vacation,
Yeah.
or because we planned, you know,
Right.
Why can't you get all this done and then
Tommy's not
regular
going,
school
so
year?
Susie's not gonna go this week.
That's what I'm saying about kids being picked on. I think it's like they feel like they're being picked on because they have to go or whatever. Where in high, I mean,
It is with kids.
it's harder
Right.
with high school where
Well,
you
then
can kind of
I-
explain it to them. You can't really explain
At
it to
our
them.
school, they're gonna be like, well, I need mine to be in there because I don't have anyone to watch them.
Babysitter.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's also reality.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
And it's a valid reality, it's just, are we, you know, school has always changed based on societal needs all through history. You
It's
know,
just that
school
it
has
hasn't changed here in a
But
long
it-
time. and
Exactly,
nobody likes
exactly.
change.
But it has always changed, and you know, so what are we doing now?
What do we need to keep the kids wanting to come to school, the staff wanting to work, and the community not as aggravated?
I guess my question would be like, what is the law on them? Because if they don't send them, technically, can't we send a fence if they're required to be there? Like, that's my question. Is like, can we do it like that way?
And then they might argue,
You know what
well,
I'm
how
saying?
can you require this kid and not this
Because
kid?
this kid is wrong. Like, that's what I'm wondering. Is that allowed?
I think you could make the case for it.
Sure.
The question becomes, is a judge going to accept it?
Yeah,
And
that's
is
what
it
I'm
worth
wondering.
And
Yeah.
that I don't know.
That's what I'm wondering, if there's precedence already for the, like, has somebody already done this? Is what kind of what my
Right.
question is. And has it worked or has it not worked, or what's the deal?
Well, I don't know of anybody who has done like a year-round calendar and then said, okay, we're going to set aside these weeks
For intervention.
for intervention, right? For tier 2 and tier 3 kinds of interventions.
What do most schools do for year round? Is it 6 weeks and then they get 2 weeks off?
Give or take,
Depending
yeah.
on what the holiday or the
Yeah.
season.
Sure.
Is
I
there
think
other
I think it's
options?
3 weeks, but you have to have at least 6 or 7 weeks in the summer. I mean, there is
Straight.
there is a rule where in the summer there's a minimum break.
Well, like my brother's kids in Georgia, they start the first week of August. Their first break is the whole week, I think, at Labor Day. And then they have a whole week at Thanksgiving. They get the 2 weeks off at Christmas. Then they get a whole week off at it's in February, President's Day.
Yeah.
Then they get spring break, and they're still out the same time we are, and they're considered year round.
I
But they
guess-
get like a week off
Right.
every.
Because they start that
Every
first
month.
week of August.
Yes, they
yeah.
start that
Depending
first
on
week of
if they
August.
could be 1 week or 2 weeks.
But they still get
Sure.
out
Right.
before Memorial Day.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I
I don't know
know
if those are options. Why
They-
does it have to be 6 weeks and then 2 weeks?
it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean,
I didn't know if that was-
other than in the summer, I believe there is a rule that says it's like a minimum of 6 or 7 weeks. For some reason, I remember that. But I know that, for example, around here, like in our co-op, I know Hillcrest started this year July 28th,
Yes.
Whoa.
right? And because they're running that year-round piece.
When are they getting out?
I don't know. The only reason I remember that is because I remember talking to their superintendent about that. He's like, we've already started. We've already started.
And I
We
would
started
like
last
to
week."
starting like that first week of August because it's so hot outside anyways. You
A few of
can't
the staff
enjoy
I've talked
it.
to are loving it. The one they started.
I mean, I
Do what?
A few of the staff that I've talked to, they are very pleased with it. They're excited about it.
I mean, I'm not crazy about year round.
Jack Dew wouldn't want to start on his birthday.
I think that
But-
for teachers, most of the time we're already here the first week of
Yeah.
August. And I'm
Right,
already
that's what I
But
said.
that's going to
So-
push us back coming into in
Right, that would be my question.
Well,
Would
unless
that
we
push
put
us
them-
into
work them in the calendar.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
unless we work them
wondering,
into
yes.
the calendar.
Because that's what I was
Which I
thinking.
like
You would
them
just work
worked
more
into the
days into the
calendar.
calendar and have more like PD/flex days in the
Yeah.
calendar.
Yeah, I was wondering what could, realistically, how many days do we need? Like, how many days can we get away with at the beginning of the year? Right?
As
Like,
far
Right,
as
we have to have 10 professional, or
We
we
have
have,
to-
to have 5 or 6.
not, it doesn't, we have to have,
Four
we have to have, 10 PD days. So it's 178 days contact. It's 10 PD days and then 2 days that basically you get through parent teacher conference. Right? And so that typically for this district, before I kind of got it, the way I understand that was like 5 or 6 days before school and like 4 days at the end of school, 4 or 5 days at the end of school, and then that was your days, right? And then I sort of have this vision of more like sprinkle some days in there because I think that allows us to course correct.
Yeah.
As I continue to think about it, I'm wondering, do we really need 5 days at the beginning, right? How many days could we get away with, right? If we give a day, if we set aside a day for what I'm going to call teacher prep, you're in your classroom, you're doing those things. In my world, that's, we're not, as administrators, they shouldn't be taking your time to do that. That's your 6 hours, right? Then, okay, that's one, so that means we gotta have at least one. Right? Now, how many? Well, one of the things that's, okay, you're right, we're getting hammered right now on, and I know this is all recorded, so, but I would say this in the world, we're getting hammered right now on, bullying and trying to re-educate parents on what bullying really is and the differences between bullying and harassment and being mean or being rude. I would tell you societally, in our community, it seems like there are more people who see it as if anything bad happens to a kid, that's bullying. Right? I've dealt with so much as a second grader who lost her Kit Kat on the floor of the bus. A kindergartner picked it up and ate it, and that was bullying. Right? I mean, all the way up to some of the other stuff that you're seeing, I'm sure. So, I think we have a culture issue. I think we have a culture issue. And as much as we want kids to read and learn and literacy and math, it's hard to do that when you have a cultural issue. Okay? And I don't mean cultural like we have multiple cultures in the district. I mean an organizational cultural issue, right? So one of the things that we looked at with the elementary and MD and the junior high, we sent a team to that Capturing Kids' Hearts. What I've heard about it, I've heard from multiple superintendents. They say it's the best thing they've ever done. They've been doing it for 7, 8, 9 years now. Our team came back the ones I've talked to Mr. Linder, I've talked to a couple others. They really like it. I've got an appointment to meet with the fella via Zoom, but it's very expensive. Right? But I would want to train if we're going to go that direction, I would want to train every single staff member.
I would never agree to it unless you could. Having
Right.
been there,
Everyone is
I
on
could
board.
never convince someone of the program based on, and having been there, I could never even begin to, every person will have to be trained.
But that's probably, I'm assuming that's $150,000 investment for the year, right? And that starts with a 2-day training. Okay, so if we choose to walk that direction, that's 3 days, right? Because I wouldn't want to do it at the end of the year. I'd want to do it at the beginning of the year to get a jump on the net, so you got that momentum going on. So I wonder is, and I haven't talked to really the building principals about this yet. I'm starting with you all, right? Could we get away with 3 days, or do we need 4 because we've got building level things? I mean, I was building principal. I had building level things I needed to focus on, right? And then,
What about open house?
Huh?
What about open house? Like open house day, does that count? Does that count as a day?
She could.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm just wondering if
Well-
that counts for parent-teacher conferences, or does that count as PD? Because you said 2 for parent-teacher conferences.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
Could
Okay,
it
got it.
count
Okay.
as student contact if the parents were bringing their kids?
Well, I think so. The questions become like, how long is it, right? When I was as a high school person, our open house was like 2 hours. Come in. Well, that was just part of our expectation of being a teacher because it was 2 hours, and you're looking at half days versus full days. In Rogers, we were very we were pretty generous, but it was also like a day is 6 hours, so we kind of worked. It was just. And as a building principal, it's kind of like, well, we know that people have to work this, and so we're gonna be lax on other things, if you kind of get my drift, right? And so there's sort of that going on. I think we could work in to those 10 days any way we needed to work it in. My boundary with the principals this year has been, that's one of the reasons if you go to secondary, the parent-teacher conference schedule sort of changed. Because I think, it's 6 hours. That's a day. That's what we contract for. And so, and I think we were running 4. So that was some changes that I felt like I wanted to see there. But I think, and if we're going to do something different, we have an opportunity in the calendar. And this is the question I think we may have raised it here, but I know I raised it with principals, which is, if we're always doing parent-teacher conferences from 3:30 until 6:30 or whatever that is, right? How do we ever include in our parent-teacher conferences our parents who work second shift? Right? And so I think, again, if we're going to sort of start over with the calendar, maybe we start over and think about a parent-teacher day might be a day where we don't come in until noon and work till 6, or we don't come in until, or if we want to use 2 days, I mean, there's nothing that says that we can't use another one of those professional development days as a teacher contact day, right? And so, I mean, maybe one of the things that, how do we do that? Basically, there was a point in my career where we ran a schedule for parent-teacher conferences that was like 7 in the morning until 1 o'clock to catch, and then the next day it was like noon to 6, right? So you had in that 2-day, you had a 12-hour window, and really if they worked first shift, you could get them the next day. If they worked last shift, you could get them the first day before they go into work, I think we would probably be benefit to look at some schedules like that.
I've got to get to Jonesboro to get spelling bee trophies before they close.
Kids need their trophies.
Yeah, we got to get those trophies, yes. So
got her both.
I'm in agreement with both of those coming up. So I will see y'all next
Okay,
month.
thanks.
Happy Thanksgiving.
So, I mean, I think if we have an opportunity to and we have this group has a stomach for that, then maybe we look at some options. But that means, some of these things about not starting until August 18th and getting out before Memorial Day sort of.
I mean, it's down low on the importance though. Like the first day being August 18th. So if we have to move it, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like that. So I just feel like it doesn't seem like it's this.
Gonna be a big.
Yeah, I don't think as many people would be upset. Obviously, someone's gonna be upset, but I don't think as many people will be upset about it. So.
Yeah, there's always going to be someone upset
Yeah.
about it, no matter what.
So do we
do
want to
what's
look
best
at
for
maybe
us.
some of those things? Okay. All right, we'll try to. And what we may do is I may start something and send it to you, and then those of you who want, like, we can come back together for 30 minutes and kind of talk about it, and then go back and do some more, that kind of thing. Okay, 3.2, policy 3.1 modification. So there is currently a policy 3.1. Policy 3.1 addresses the contract return. So currently, employees have 30 days from the date of all that is what the policy says right now. The section that I am proposing to this group that we add is what's underlined there. Okay? Basically what that says is if you're going to retire from the district and you're willing to tell me prior to February 1st that you're going to retire and turn in the paperwork by February 1st, I'll give you a $400 stipend. Now, you can retire at any time. You can retire on February 2nd if you want. That's okay with me. I'm just not going to give you the $400, right? And the reason for that is because we are trying to move up our dates of hire. There is a good, and so let's talk about this. There is a good chance, we will not, because I know everybody's going to be interested in what is the salary schedule going to look like, right? I mean, that's just, everybody is, I'm interested in it. We will probably not know how much money we're going to get per student until March or April, like late March or April. And that's too late for me on a salary schedule. It's honestly, I think it's too late to hire because most of our colleagues around this area will be getting contracts out as early as March 1st, right? And I think we need to do the same thing to get the very best individuals that we can hired. what that means is I think we're looking at a situation where we're going to have to, I don't know, I'm going to use the word sort of trust a little bit, but we're going to have to create, like, we're going to have to put contracts out before we actually get a salary schedule done, right? My goal, I'll just tell you, I mean, I don't think I've made any secret of this. My goal with this next phase, what phase 3 now, is we need to deal with administrator salaries, because that is something that needs to be dealt with. And I would like to come back and try to deal with the experience and the education piece. Okay, that is my goal. We don't know how much money we're going to have until April or so, which means, and this is not new. This will be new for us, but it's not new for, like, I have a lot of friends who work in the Kansas City area, Kansas, Missouri. A lot of times they start without contracts. Now that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is we would put out we may have to put out contracts that are this year's contract, and then come back and pass a resolution, right, to add
For what next year is gonna
to, yeah, I mean, like in May or June, after everybody's already signed their contracts, right, come back with a resolution and say, okay, this is what we have, so we're going to put this to, experience or education or, whatever else we come back. I would like, honestly, I'd like to do a stipend for fully certified. I don't think we've talked about that. But that would, to me, that's a really simple way to increase the base without actually increasing the base. Right? And to provide some separation for staff members who are fully certified and those staff members who are not, and maybe provide some incentive to staff members who are not fully certified to get fully certified as quickly as possible. So that's kind of how all that sort of, in my brain, the way I visualize it, right? And that's why February 1st, because that allows us to accept those, get those positions posted, because we know we're going to need them, or there could be, honestly, they could be, we could absorb those through attrition, because right now, I mean, I will tell you, we started out with 1910. As of the board meeting, we were at 1896. So, and that's a trend for Pocahontas. I mean, if you go back 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, right, you'll see where first quarter is a little larger, second quarter is a little smaller, third quarter is your bottom number, and then maybe fourth quarter kind of comes back up a little bit. But I've already started looking at, to calculate what might our foundation funding be, using probably a number that's smaller than our first quarter number, because we know historically that has dropped. And then as we add more information, we'll start honing in on what that number is, assuming, because the legislature has put out, this is our recommendation for the per pupil funding. I think it's like 78 something for next year, right? Goes up a little over $100, I think. And so we can start using that number, but we don't know that the legislature may come back and go, yeah, we're not, we don't have a big enough surplus. We're going to cut that back and keep it at what it is right now, or maybe only raise it $20 instead of $100 or whatever. And so that's just kind of the reality we're working through. Questions about the contract, return?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is this going to include teachers who have retired and come back and then they're going to retire again?
Craig and I have talked about that, and the idea would be you would get the $400 one time.
So they obviously didn't get it before because we didn't
Right.
do it.
Right.
So if
So
this
they
is
would
their
get it this
second,
time.
they would
Right.
get it.
That's a good call, probably.
So yeah, to say that, yeah.
Because what I am going to ask you to do, I mean, I propose it to you today. We come back and meet about it in 10 days, basically. But what I'm going to ask you to do when you vote on it is vote to add it to, because technically when you vote, you're voting to add it to the personnel policies as of July 1. I'm going to ask that you vote to add it to the personnel policies as of passage of at the school board, so that we can get it in now, so that we can give this out this year and kind of get moving on there. As I told the board the other night, there's money in the budget to do this. I've got based on because I've run like how many people could, 'cause obviously not everybody's eligible to retire, right? So you're only talking the number of people who are eligible to retire. And they won't all retire at the same time, like this year.
Now, when you say retire, like, does it have to be at 28 years, or
No, well, so there are four ways you can retire.
it starts at 25, right?
It does. It starts at 25 with a reduction of, I think, 5% per year.
Something like that, yeah. So, okay.
But there's also, you can retire at 65 if you have, I think it's 15 years in and you're 65, you can retire without actually retiring. Like you can retire and keep working. I had a counselor who did that. And then if you're maybe 60 with 5 years, you can retire or something like that. I mean, there's like 4 different ways.
Okay.
I read them.
So it's not just
a week and a
necessarily
half ago.
that they retire at 28 years,
They can retire at 35 years.
Right.
Um,
Right, I know,
we have,
but I mean, like, there's...
We have 4 staff members who are currently retired but also still working. And now and you could also, it doesn't say this, the way I would interpret it, you might say, I'm going to retire. Most people wouldn't do this, but you might say, I'm going to retire in 4 years. Okay, great, right? You'd have to, once you give me the letter, then you get the $400 prior to separation from the district, right? So if I was 65 and I was retiring, I might be eligible for this, but I'm not going to get it if I don't separate until I separate.
Because technically they could say that they're going to and then not, and then get the $400. They'd be like,
Right. And so that's why that says that phrase is in there. You can retire whenever you want. If you tell us and give us the paperwork prior to May 1st, we'll give you the $400 if you decide you're old enough, you meet that qualification, because you can only do that when you're 65, right? If you're 63 and want to do that, you can't do that. You have to actually separate from the district. But if you're 65 and you retire, you can do that before February 1st. You're now in line, if you will, for that $400. If you choose to stay, you're retired, but you decide to stay, I'm going to hold on to that $400 until you separate. So.
Well, I mean, I know one who has retired. She came back, and I think she's going to leave again. And then there was another one.
So she would be eligible for the $400.
Right, because she didn't get it the first time.
Right.
And then there's one, she's retiring at 27 years. So she's,
And
she would get it too then.
Yeah, so in essence, if they meet one of the 4 retirement criteria, and that's the retirement, or that's the criteria that's set by ARTS, right?
Yes.
If they retire with ARTS, as long as they turn their retirement notice into us by February 1st, we'll give them the $400.
Okay.
Okay, so you kind of look at that, talk about that, and then we'll... okay, last thing, 3.3. I didn't have like a companion document for it, but what I proposed to the board the other night, and remember it's just a proposal, I bring it to you, then you guys get to think about it, we'll vote on it next time, and then... But what I'd like to do is I would like to do a bonus with the December payroll of $500, and it would be $500 per employee. I know sometimes, historically, I think sometimes the district has graduated that on a 190-day contract. The way I see it, I think it's just a straight it's just a straight bonus of $500. Any thoughts, concerns?
The only concern that I've already heard about this is like if we're giving it by the December check, that's 5 days before Christmas. So I guess I don't know if it would be possible if we could do like a separate paper check. And do
It will
before
be a separate
that, but
paper
before
check.
the 20th.
I don't know that without
What's on
running a
that set?
secondary,
The
without running a second payroll.
Okay, I just know
Yeah.
I've already heard that piece of it, like having having more time to Christmas shop.
Well, I mean,
But yes,
if we weren't getting it, what were you
Exactly.
gonna do?
that's what
So, you know,
yeah, but that's just what I've heard.
Well, and I've heard concerns, are we gonna get another 500 in May?
And it's possible. I'm not gonna say we are, but I'm not gonna say we're not.
because that's months away.
Yeah, it's possible.
Well, I mean, you know, historically, we've always gotten $1,000 in May.
Right.
Then last year we got it at Christmas, and then people were upset it didn't go in May. You know, so I thought, well, maybe you're breaking it up this year.
When I started, we got it in December, but like 500 of it was bonus and 400 of it was like
You
added
started
on.
working here?
Right.
I don't ever remember that.
Yeah, we've got one in December at a time or two.
I don't ever remember that. I've been here 21 years.
I mean, that's what I remember.
That is a long time though, so I could have slept.
Because you know, half of it went to your bonus, and then the rest of it went onto your check. Like,
Yeah.
On the base.
Yeah,
Base
yeah.
salary, yeah.
500 went to, but I always thought we got it in May.
well, maybe we did. Either way,
We got it at one point.
Yeah,
I think
we got it.
the only time we've ever we got $1,500.
For ESSER one time.
No, this was my first year
I was
teaching.
gonna say, I know.
It was a $1,500 raise, and then after that, it was like we never got $1,500 again. That was in 2004.
Okay, is there anything else y'all want to talk about?
When do we need to meet next? Would the 4th be sufficient?
I would say yes.
When is the next board meeting? Is that
I'm
the
willing,
15th,
it's
the
the,
16th?
that Monday, the week before, is it the 16th, 18th? I don't know. What
The 16th is our last week.
Yeah, 16th.
16th.
we
So
don't want to
anytime-
meet on the 5th because that's the parade.
Parade
People are
day.
gonna be
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
busy.
Christmas parade.
So
isn't
either
there something, oh, that was there something at the elementary school last night?
Music.
Yeah.
Last night.
Third grade musical. It was patriotic. Second grade will be doing a musical in December.
Okay.
That's gonna be
All right.
crazy.
I mean,
the 4th or the 11th.
4th or the 11th works fine. I mean,
Okay, preference.
What day?
I'm fine with
The 4th, December 4th, Wednesday.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying 4th through the 11th.
Well, if my class can
It's
get
gonna be a
their
long
stuff
meeting.
together,
That's
I
gonna
mean,
be really long. Of course, I'm all stuffed up. I can't hear good. What? December 4th.
I'm looking at my calendar just to make sure. Yeah, I'm good either way. So you want to do the 4th?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
that way, in case something pops up and we have to reschedule, we've got the 11th.
Yes,
Right.
banked.
good plan.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? Okay, so we'll try to have something on the calendar to look at by then too, just to sort of start playing with it. Okay. All right. Just need a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.